Well, hello there. Welcome to part 3 of Aphantasia and Beyond. If you have not seen parts 1 and 2, I highly recommend you do so because it adds context to what we're discussing here. There are links to all 5 parts of the series in the description below. Here in part 3, we discuss what is happening in our minds when we read a novel and how we experience our memories. When you read a novel, is it like a movie in your mind?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No.
No. It's words on a page.
Well, more like I'm in it. Not like a movie on a screen, but more like it's happening around me.
The latest novel I read was about Abraham Lincoln. And I definitely know that I can picture him in his office. Sometimes I have a few images that I think are there a lot when I read. And when he described him going on horseback, when he was first running for Congress and stuff. So maybe a movie would be more detailed, but I do see some of that for sure. I can picture him on horseback and he went to this town, and there's kind of an idea in my mind of what it looked like or something. So yeah, more or less, I guess.
It depends on how familiar with the story I am. The reason is I found out late that I was dyslexic. I struggled all the way through high school. I didn't know what dyslexia was until I was married and had my first kid. So if I read a novel, which I enjoy doing, I have to read it the first time to familiarize myself with it, the second time to get fluid with it, and then I read it a third time to enjoy it and visualize it. So the third time, the more familiar I am with it, yes, it's a movie playing out in my mind. Amazing. And then I actually started to write a novel. It always surprised me that I could write, because I can barely read. So it surprised me when I found out I could write. And I started to write a novel, and I visualized the entire story in my mind as a movie before I ever put it on paper.
Yeah. I don't want to oversell it. I do tend to kind of visualize the characters and the actions and such. And if I'm reading a novelization that's already been made into a movie, I'm pretty much watching the movie. And if there's a deviation, I kind of take those characters and put them into the scene. For example, right now I just started reading Harry Potter again. So obviously seen the movie a few times, so I can picture Harry and the crew. But there's some scenes in the book, there's a character named Peeves, I think, or Jeeves, the poltergeist. Not in the movie at all. They just cut them out. So I have to make that up myself and integrate it with the characters that have been established in the film.
No. Again, I can have vague thoughts about what's being described to me, but there's not a lot of detail, and there's no pictures or sound at all. It's, as far as anything visual, it's just the book is all I see. The words on the page is all I actually see. Everything else are just vague thoughts.
I think it's more intimate than a movie. And it's probably just my own bias, really. But, a movie is it's three-dimensional, obviously, but it's sort of flat if you compare it to, a book, right? The book is, there's so much you get to know about the characters, and there's so much going on. It's not really like a movie. It's more like being involved in someone's life. When I finish books, I kind of miss the characters. Sometimes I have when I finished the Harry Potter series, knowing there wasn't going to be another Harry Potter book, I kind of miss them, I would miss a friend.
How well can you visualize the characters and surroundings?
Very well.
I don't.
I think I can visualize them pretty well.
I think I do it semi-vaguely. I don't think I give it a lot of detail. It's just, it's pretty vague.
Extremely well. I can costumes, facial expressions, skin tones.
Not at all. So I have no preconceived notions of what book characters are supposed to look or sound like, or what the places are supposed to look like, so I'm never disappointed by the movies in that regard.
It's not a visual. It's like telling myself, okay, you've seen a castle before, so that's a castle. You've seen,
kids before, so there's a kids. You've seen like a magic wand before, so there's a, so my mind knows what this stuff looks like.
If they describe somebody, who had long hair and bronze complexion, and they give me those descriptions, then I can tell myself I know what somebody looks like who has long hair and bronze complexion. I know what those things look like. So I can't imagine them. I can't see them, but I feel comfortable knowing what they would look like if I saw them.
It's easier when, if it's reading the Lord of the Rings, where I've read it a million times and I've seen the movies, I can easily visualize them. When it's a book like Ender's Game, where I had read it before I ever saw a movie, then I still visualize what I created before the movie came along. Or, The Martian, or some of those other books that I read them before. When I go back and reread them, it's my version of the story, not someone else's.
Kind of a lot like how I visualize most things, where it's like detail, and then it's like, looks like I'll see a flash of a face, and then it just kind of fades away, and it just becomes like a tan circle. But I know who they are just because, I don't know. Well, I saw that initial flash, and then my mind just keeps track of who's who.
You only see things in your mind if you're looking for them, or if they've been purposefully placed there by the author. So if the author says this person has greasy black hair and a sharp nose, if I can remember that from last time I picked up the book, if it was a fleeting detail, I might have forgotten. But if they give a good description in the beginning of the introduction, and I firmly attach it to the name and what the person kind of does, then yeah, I tend to picture those details. If the person's not really described well, I don't really describe him well in my mind. I might randomly assign hair color and other features.
As long as I can pin it to something, like I said before, to something I've seen before. And that goes a lot to the extra things you get in a novel where they describe the scenery. And some of the stuff they say I don't understand. Like occasionally they'll describe something that I can't imagine because I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Do you hear the sounds and voices in your mind?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
I would say no.
It's kind of an option. I think I have kind of control over it. So if I wanted to imagine the sounds, I probably could. But usually I probably don't. I just read it, and I don't even know what's happening actually in that case. I'm going to have to say no on that. I think when I'm reading it, I'm like seeing it, and my own voice is kind of narrating.
Yeah. Again, going back to Lord of the Rings, I remember as a kid either having my parents read it to me or the old BBC radio version of the Lord of the Rings that was pretty true to the book. So I can hear that Gandalf, not the Gandalf from the movies, speaking, and and those kinds of things go through my, those are the voices I hear.
Is there any narration that happens in your mind?
Like audibly, no, not really. It appears as part of the movie, like that's playing. Like if it's describing the scenery just shows up. Or describes what the person's doing, that just shows up as action in the movie. The only thing I hear when I read a book is voices and sounds that are actually like, if something, like from the earlier example, something was knocked off the table, I hear the clunk or whatever from it falling. But I don't hear somebody say, it fell off the table. I'm reading that.
It depends how the book is written. Like however the narration is written, that's what I hear in my mind. So if it's written in third person, then I hear that. My mind reflects the narrative that's in the book. So if it's written in first person, then I can imagine myself as a narrator and listening to that. If it's written in third person, and like somebody telling me a story.
I think it would have to depend. I think if I'm more involved in the book has really got me, I can influx the words. Jimmy screamed, and I'm like, blah, and I can my reading thoughts get louder. But if I don't like the book, then I just try to get through it.
What about audiobooks?
It seems like it's much better for me to imagine things because I can look out the window when I'm imagining it rather than looking at print on a page. I think being able to look into the void is easier. I can't really visualize something with my eyes closed, but looking at a page isn't that much easier. Like being able to just not read the book and just look out the window or whatever, it's much easier to generate these images.
I love Audible, being able to read or to hear and visualize and then get something else done at the same time. That's typically how I get my fiction, is listening to an audiobook.
I was driving through Texas and New Mexico listening to the prequel to Lonesome Dove, Dead Man's Walk. I was listening to Dead Man's Walk, and I'm driving through the area that the book takes place. And as I'm driving, I'm visualizing, listening to I'm seeing the Indians coming over the hill. I'm seeing the antelope out in the field. I'm seeing Gus McCrae riding his horse through Texas in the alkali deserts. I'm visualizing all this.
If you want to relive a memory, can you see and experience that in your mind? What is it like?
Yeah. If it really happened to me, yeah. That's more real than, like, say, what I do with a book.
In this case, I do see pictures. They're still, I'm trying really hard to see color. They're still not color.
Yes. It's more like watching a movie of it. Yeah, so I can't be, like, in the moment, but I can, like, watch it and everything. I don't really experience any of the feelings from then. But I can see it, but experience it is iffy. Because I don't, like, feel anything from it. I don't, it's just kind of there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't know how accurate my memory is, but I do have images, whether or not they're true or real, or they're just, you know what I mean? Because I've thought I remembered something and then saw it again and been like, so yeah, I see images, but I can't guarantee you that what I see in my head is that accurate.
It's like an awareness of events that happened. That's as much as it is.
No, I wouldn't describe it as reliving it at all. I remember the first time I laid eyes on each of my children. I remember that. But again, in my way, I can't see it. I can't relive it. But in my vague way of picturing things, I have those memories.
I can give you details, like vague details of things that happened, or maybe more of a little bit of a detail of things that happened. But I'm not reliving it. I'm just kind of like, okay, I got married August 1st of 1998. There you go. And I wore a white dress, and there was pictures.
Somewhat. I mean, I think some of those memories, maybe it's that visualization side of me that has created a 3D model where I'm seeing myself from an extra perspective. I mean, I was 3 or 4 when I remember laying down and having my mom try on shoes to see what fit, and my brother sitting on the top bunk throwing a ball and hitting the chandelier, it shattering, and I don't remember the glass hitting, but it came and cut right here. I can picture myself laying on the floor on that nasty 70s green carpet, right? And having or seeing the ball fly through the air. I don't remember any else, but I can picture that with a lot of clarity. Accuracy may not be true, though, is the problem, right? I have no doubt I'm filling in gaps.
I've probably altered some things that I don't know as well. I may have made memories better or worse than they actually were. I remember when I was 4 years old, the last fishing trip I went on with my brother before he died, and I got tangled up with a snake. That's where my fear of snakes come from. And I can visualize that more in a third person than I can a first person, because I remember seeing myself on the ground with the snake wrapped around me, me trying to get away from the snake, thinking it was going to eat me. And I'm looking at it from up on the railroad tracks where the snake first tripped me up, looking down off of the berm into the grass where I ended up rolling down with the snake.
When I think about reliving an experience, I just think about the memory of the experience. I don't see it, but I've always felt like I was able to relive it to the degree that I understood reliving an experience to be. Right? I never realized I didn't realize that I was shortchanged. I didn't realize I had a blind mind's eye until you told me, 3 years ago or whatever, that you couldn't see pictures and that other people could. I didn't realize until then that other people could see things. So I still don't feel handicapped. I still don't feel like I'm missing out on something because I don't know what that would be like to be able to see those things. So reliving a memory, I feel like I do relive a memory because I didn't lose the memory. I have the memory. I just don't see it. And that's normal for me.
All right, there we go. That's the end of part 3. Go ahead and click on this link to continue on to part 4, where we discuss sleep and dreams and how our mind stores information. Links to all 5 parts of this series can be found in the description below.